All right, let's dive into one of Friedrich Nietzsche's most provocative ideas, straight from his work, The Gay Science. He basically argues that for centuries, society has been at war with its own best feature, the intellectual conscience. So let's unpack how he saw it.
I mean, really think about that question. What if the most dangerous thing you could do was just think for yourself? Nietzsche completely flips the script on this. He reframes heresy not as some kind of religious mistake, but as an intellectual virtue. It's the courageous act of stepping outside the warm, comfy blanket of what everyone else believes. And, this isn't just some dusty old idea. It's as relevant today as it's ever been.
So, here's how we're going to break this all down. First up, we'll look at what he calls the crime of thinking. Then we'll get into the Old Inquisition's theater, and yes, it's as dramatic as it sounds. After that, we'll explore why the herd needs heretics in the first place. Then we'll bring it right into our world with the modern witch hunt. And finally, we'll see how we can all embrace being what he calls the joyful heretic.
Okay, let's kick things off with our first section, the crime of thinking. We really need to get to the heart of what Nietzsche actually meant by the word heresy.
See, for Nietzsche, the real sin wasn't believing the wrong thing. Not at all. The crime was daring to believe something for yourself. He called it an eruption of individual thought, like a volcano suddenly breaking through a calm, flat landscape. And that landscape, that's the comfortable stagnation of the group. So the real threat wasn't being wrong. The real threat was being an individual.
And this just lays bare a massive clash in values, right? On one side, you've got society pointing its finger, yelling, "Heresy, witchcraft, that's wicked." But Nietzsche looks at the exact same behavior and says, no, what I see is a noble spirit. I see the will to power in action. I see honesty. So this isn't just a simple disagreement. It's like two completely different operating systems for what it even means to be human. Okay, so if these independent thinkers are noble spirits, how did historical institutions deal with them? Well, according to Nietzsche, they didn't just argue. They turned the whole thing into a public horror show.
And this right here was their masterstroke, in a really dark way. They took that innate human drive to question, to grow, what Nietzsche famously calls the will to power, and they deliberately rebranded it. They made it seem like a sickness, calling it dangerous, diabolical, a sign of witchcraft. They effectively turned one of our best virtues into a disease.
And this created this brilliant, nasty psychological trap. So step one, a curious mind starts searching for truth. Step two, the herd immediately slaps a label on it. Diabolical. Then step three, and this is the really insidious part, that individual is taught to feel disgust for their own best qualities, their curiosity, their integrity. So they're stuck with this awful choice. Either conform and accept intellectual poverty, or keep thinking and face total social shame. Those are the psychological shackles he's talking about.
And this is why he uses the word theatrical. Think about it. The public trials, the accusations, the burning at the stake, it was all a performance. A carefully staged drama with one goal, to drill an unforgettable lesson into everyone's mind. And that lesson was, searching for your own truth is making a pact with evil. End of story.
So we've seen the how, but that brings up a really big why. I mean, why is the collective, the herd as Nietzsche calls it, so hostile to the independent mind? What's really going on there?
Well, here's the twist. Punishing the heretic isn't actually about the heretic. It's about making everyone else feel better. It makes the people who just go along with everything feel secure and even righteous. It protects what Nietzsche calls their vanity, and it makes their slavish obedience look like a form of dignity, not a weakness.
The herd finds a ton of comfort in absolute black and white truths. So anyone who deviates from that is met with instant distrust. And why? Because the heretic acts like a mirror, reflecting the group's own intellectual poverty. And that is a very uncomfortable thing to look at. So the herd becomes greedy for that person's punishment just so it can get back to its comfortable consensus.
And for Nietzsche, this whole group psychology, this wickedness of the many, is the single biggest thing holding humanity back. It's the primary obstacle preventing us from reaching what he called the gay science, a joyful, free, and honest approach to knowledge.
Okay, I know what you might be thinking. Inquisitions, witch trials, that's all ancient history, right? Well, this is where Nietzsche gets really chilling. He argues this dynamic never actually went away. It just changed its clothes. So remember that historical theater we were talking about? The public trial, the burning stake? It was all a tactic to preserve the group's beliefs. Now let's see what that looks like in our world. The weapons are definitely different.
The punishments are less physical, for sure, but that fundamental conflict, that war between the individual conscience and the collective consensus, oh yeah, that is still very much alive and kicking.
The parallels here are just uncanny. Where you once had the church and the state calling the shots, now you have public opinion. Instead of being burned at the stake, now you face social disgust. And the old religious dogmas? Well, they've just been swapped out for all kinds of new secular dogmas.
The end goal is exactly the same, to silence dissent. Instead of physical pain, the modern heretic faces character assassination, public shaming, a profound loss of dignity. The weapons are psychological now, but make no mistake, they are incredibly potent.
So, if this is the reality we're in, what's a free spirit supposed to do? Well, this brings us to Nietzsche's powerful and I think very empowering conclusion. It's time to talk about embracing the joyful heretic.
And this really is the question he leaves us with. It's not just some abstract philosophical problem. It's a personal challenge, asking each of us how we're going to choose to live and think in this world. And his answer is a call to action. It means we have to reclaim that ancient pride of the people who dared to think differently. It means we have to meet those labels, heretic, witch, whatever they are, not with shame, but with laughter. It means consciously rejecting the psychological shackles of consensus. And most importantly, it means finding actual joy in what other people call the dangerous search for truth.
And that right there is the very essence of his gay science. It's the art of being a blessed heretic. It's about finding your entire purpose, your object of existence, not in fitting in, but in your own unwavering integrity and your own intellectual honesty.
So, Nietzsche's final point is this. True dignity doesn't come from the approval of the group. The highest dignity is found in the joyful, courageous, and sometimes lonely act of thinking for yourself, no matter how much disgust that might provoke from the herd. And that is a thought worth holding on to.